This is a mantis shrimp. It's roughly the size of a hot dog. Right now, it's just sitting at the entrance of its burrow, watching the reef go by. And everything on that reef already knows where it lives. Now, to be clear, the mantis shrimp is not the biggest thing on the reef. It's not even close. But there is a massive difference between being the largest animal in an ecosystem and being the one everything else has learned to fear. Octopuses reroute around its burrow. Moray eels won't enter its territory. Fish that could swallow it whole have been documented backing away the moment it raises its striking limb. So what does something the size of your hand have that makes apex predators treat it like a threat? How does an animal with no armor, no venom, and no size advantage hold territory that nothing else dares to challenge? And why has every predator on the reef spent millions of years evolving specifically to avoid this one creature? This is why the entire ocean is terrified of the mantis shrimp. To understand why the reef reorganized itself around a crustacean the size of a cigar, you first have to understand what we are actually dealing with. Because the mantis shrimp is not built like other small animals, it does not survive by being fast enough to flee, or well camouflaged enough to hide, or toxic enough to discourage attack. The mantis shrimp survives because it built a weapon so disproportionate to its body size that it changed the behavioral calculus of every animal that shares its habitat. That weapon is its punch. The raptorial appendage of the smasher mantis shrimp, the club-shaped forelimb it keeps folded close to its body, accelerates at over 10,000 times the force of gravity when released. To put that in context, a .2 caliber bullet leaves the barrel of a gun at roughly the same velocity. The strike reaches its full speed in less than 3 milliseconds, 50 miles per hour, in water, by something that weighs less than a quarter pound. The force at impact is 1,500 newtons. That is the same force as a tiger's bite, delivered by an animal you could hold in one hand. Fishermen in Southeast Asia call them thumb splitters, and not as an exaggeration. A mantis shrimp strike can crack the shell of a conch. It can break the claw off a crab. It can shatter aquarium glass, which is why marine biologists who keep them in captivity use only the thickest acrylic tanks and have developed specific handling protocols to avoid losing fingers. What makes the club structurally capable of this is itself a subject of active engineering research. The striking surface, called the dactyl club, is built in 3 distinct layers, each with a different fiber orientation, designed to absorb and redistribute impact force. Engineers at UC Riverside spent years analyzing its structure and published findings suggesting it outperforms every human-designed impact-resistant material studied. The military and aerospace industries have since developed new composite materials modeled on its architecture. The mantis shrimp did not evolve a powerful punch. It evolved a punch that doesn't destroy itself in the process. But the punch itself is not even the full story. It is only the first part. When the mantis shrimp's club moves through water that fast, something happens that engineers spend enormous resources trying to prevent in machinery. The limb displaces water so rapidly that the pressure around it drops below the point at which water can remain liquid. The water vaporizes. For a fraction of a second, a bubble of superheated vapor forms directly in front of the strike, and then it collapses. When that bubble implodes, it releases a second shockwave, independent of the punch. Separate impact. The collapse generates temperatures approaching those found at the surface of the sun and produces a brief flash of light through a process called sonoluminescence. Physicists still do not fully understand why collapsing cavitation bubbles emit light. What they do know is that the energy released by that collapse is nearly equivalent to the force of the strike itself. The mantis shrimp hits you twice with one punch. The club makes contact, and then the physics of the water finish the job. Prey has been documented dying from a mantis shrimp strike that missed direct contact entirely. The shockwave alone was sufficient. This is not a small animal that punches hard. This is an animal that figured out how to weaponize a law of physics, and it has been doing this for roughly 400 million years. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. because the punch alone does not explain why the reef fears the mantis shrimp. Plenty of animals have powerful strikes. What makes the mantis shrimp different is that it paired that weapon with something no other predator on the reef possesses, a sensory system so advanced that hiding from it is essentially impossible. Humans have 3 types of color receptors in our eyes: red, green, and blue. Cats have 2. Most fish have 4. Birds can see into the ultraviolet range with 4 receptors, and we can barely imagine what that looks like. The mantis shrimp has 16 distinct photoreceptor types covering a range from deep ultraviolet to far red. Their eyes do not just detect color, they detect the polarization of light, the direction in which light waves are oscillating as they travel through water. Most animals cannot perceive polarized light at all. The mantis shrimp not only sees it, but uses it as a primary targeting system. Here is why that matters. In the ocean, most camouflage works by matching color and pattern. A fish hides by looking like the reef. A crab disappears against sand. These strategies are effective against predators that see the way most animals see. But polarized light bounces off biological tissue in specific ways that differ from rock, coral, and sand, regardless of color or pattern. An animal that can read polarized light can see through camouflage that fools every other predator in the water. There is nowhere to hide from the mantis shrimp. Not in color, not in pattern, not in stillness. Its visual system processes light in ways that no amount of evolutionary camouflage has been able to fully counter, because countering it would require prey to change the physical properties of their tissue, which is not a thing that can be evolved around. The practical consequence of this is difficult to overstate. A cuttlefish, one of the most sophisticated camouflage artists in the ocean, capable of changing color, texture, and pattern in under a second, is invisible to a Moray eel. It is invisible to a grouper. It is not invisible to a mantis shrimp. The polarization signature of its skin, regardless of what color it becomes, remains legible to an eye built to read exactly that signal. The cuttlefish's entire investment in camouflage, millions of years of evolution, thousands of specialized cells, a nervous system devoted partly to controlling its surface appearance, provides no measurable protection against an animal it could encounter in the same reef zone. But there is a twist that took researchers years to figure out. Despite having 16 photoreceptors, mantis shrimp are actually worse than humans at distinguishing between similar colors in controlled tests. They are not seeing more colors than us. They are doing something stranger and more efficient. The mantis shrimp does not compare signals between receptors the way our brains do. It does not calculate ratios. Instead, each photoreceptor functions as an independent sensor, recognizing specific wavelengths instantly without cross-referencing the others. It is less like human color vision and more like a barcode scanner. The animal does not see a rich, continuous spectrum. It sees a rapid pattern of matches and mismatches across 16 channels simultaneously. The result is that the mantis shrimp processes visual information faster than almost any other animal on the reef. It does not deliberate, it identifies, and from identification, it acts in less than 3 milliseconds. 16 photoreceptors feeding into a strike that accelerates faster than a bullet, delivered by an animal that just spent the morning sitting in its burrow, watching everything that moved within range. This is what the reef learned to navigate around. Not by competing with it, by avoiding it. And the avoidance is sophisticated. Octopuses, which are among the most intelligent predators in the ocean, have been documented specifically mapping burrow locations of mantis shrimp and routing their foraging paths around them. This is not accidental avoidance. It is a cognitive decision made by an animal that is intelligent enough to remember, plan, and adapt. When an octopus decides not to go near a mantis shrimp burrow, it is not reacting to a threat. It is recalling an assessment it made earlier and acting on it. Fish behave differently near mantis shrimp territory than they do in equivalent habitat without one. Their swimming patterns shift. Their depth of approach to the substrate changes. Researchers studying reef fish behavior have documented what can only be described as awareness. fish modifying their behavior based on the location of an animal that is sitting perfectly still in a hole and posing no immediate visible threat. The reef does not just react to the mantis shrimp when it attacks. The reef organizes around the mantis shrimp as a permanent feature of the landscape. Its burrow is a boundary. Its territory is a gap in the activity patterns of everything else. There is another dimension to this that most predators never develop. The mantis shrimp actively defends and maintains its territory through ritualized combat. When two mantis shrimp dispute a burrow, they do not immediately strike. They assess. They display their striking limbs in a sequence called morale spreading, a visual signal that communicates size, condition, and readiness. In many cases, the encounter ends there. The weaker animal retreats. No energy wasted, no injury sustained. But when the assessment concludes that neither animal will back down, the strike follows. And it is not a warning. It is a conclusion. This is the evolutionary memory that 400 million years of being on the wrong end of that punch produces. The mantis shrimp has been here since before the dinosaurs. It has been punching through shells, shattering crab claws, and killing fish with shockwaves since before most of the animal lineages that currently share the reef existed. Long enough that the avoidance is not just learned behavior. It is inherited. Prey species that have never personally encountered a mantis shrimp still display measurable wariness around their burrows, suggesting that the response has been baked into the behavioral programming of reef animals at a level deeper than individual experience. The ocean does not remember the mantis shrimp because something happened recently. It remembers because something has been happening, continuously, for 400 million years. There is one more dimension to this that most people do not know about, and it is the part that researchers find genuinely strange. The mantis shrimp is monogamous. Not in the loose sense that some animals loosely pair, in the strict sense that peacock mantis shrimp form long-term pair bonds, share burrows, and cooperate in raising offspring. Among the longest documented pair bonds of any crustacean, they groom each other. They defend their shared territory together. The same appendage that can generate a shockwave capable of emitting light is used to gently clean a partner's antennae. This matters because it reveals something about the mantis shrimp that the punch alone obscures. This is not a simple weapon attached to a simple animal. The mantis shrimp has the most complex visual system of any organism ever studied, a strike that manipulates physics, a lifespan that can exceed 2 decades, and a social structure built around long-term cooperation. Researchers studying their intelligence have documented individual recognition, mantis shrimp that can distinguish specific individual neighbors from strangers, and ritualized combat in which two animals assess each other's strength before deciding whether to fight. They have a system of rules, governed by their impossible eyes, communicated through polarized light signals invisible to every other animal on the reef, interpreted in a brain that processes visual data faster than any other invertebrate studied. And when the rules break down, they punch with the force of a tiger's bite, generate a flash of light, and kill things with the shockwave of the water that was in the way. The reef is not terrified of the mantis shrimp because it is the largest predator. It is not the largest predator. It is terrified because the mantis shrimp has been here longer than almost anything else, has never lost an arms race, and has never needed to get bigger to win one. Everything on that reef has had 400 million years to figure out how to deal with it. Most of them just learned where the burrow is, and they go somewhere else.